Alright guys, so this is going to be my review of Justice League Power Rangers. A crossover that came the fuck out of nowhere, but it came out just because Power Rangers and Justice League were getting a movie. We're getting movies, so Boom Studios and DC was like, hey, you've got a movie, we've got a movie, let's make this happen, let's make this a thing. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot in common between Justice League and Power Rangers. They both fight for good. They both fight giant monsters on occasion. And their movies are met with varying degrees of mediocrity. So, it's a match made in heaven. Anywho, what did I think of this crossover? Now, this thing was delayed like a motherfucker. This was delayed multiple times. I think it was actually close to being put on indefinite hiatus at halfway through the comic. Because the artist was, from what I understand, word on the street is that the artist wasn't good at doing was having trouble doing interior artwork, so that's why it was kind of slowed down. So that was the case, right? That was the case why this comic was nearly discontinued in this 6-part story. But thankfully it was not. Thankfully. And this comic is pretty good. Not bad. It's not great. It's not one of the greatest crossovers I've ever seen. But seriously, it's not that bad. I will say right out the gate, if you love Justice League and Power Rangers, give this a look. You know, I'd say right out the gate, at least give this comic a look. Having said that, though, there are some things I want to talk about, continuity-wise. Because first off, I'll start with Power Rangers. Actually, no, let's talk about the story before I get into the continuity problems. So, for story, the story is that Lord Zed has infiltrated the command center and has teleported the Power Rangers away. What happens is that during the attack between Zed's attack on the command center, Zack activates his teleporter, and they get tossed around after, there's been damage to the command center. So they get tossed, him and Zed get tossed around into the DC universe. And Zed goes missing, but Zack ends up in Gotham City, where the other Power Rangers follow close behind, and Batman calls in the Justice League. Meanwhile, Zed has been found by Brainiac, and he's convinced him, hey, I know a world you can take. And we have our comic. So, let's get into the continuity thing, and this was the major one for Power Rangers. Why don't they have the Thunder Zords? No, I'm serious. Why don't they... I can understand, Tommy being the Green Ranger, but yeah, when Zed came on the scene, he destroyed the Zords, hence, that's why we got the Thunder Zords. So why didn't we have, why didn't we have that? We had the Megazords. We had the Megazord. Yeah, that was a thing. But, yeah, why wasn't it the Thunder Zords? Just saying, that was the first thing Zed did. Now, if it was Rita as the main villain in this comic, I'd be a little more fine with it. But the fact that it's Zed and not, Zed, because that's a kind of a continuity error for me right there. I don't know, maybe it's just the Power Ranger fanboy in me, but I was just kind of, left confused. If you wanted to use the if you want to have Zed as the villain, you can't have one without the other. Just saying. And I know Power Rangers is not big on continuity. I'm fully aware of that, but there are, some things I'd like to go, now hold up. So yeah, I'd have been fine if it wasn't Zed and if it was just Rita as the villain. I mean, they've actually, in the Boom Studios comics, Rita's been a badass in that series. Rita has been a badass in the Boom Studio comics. So I'd have been totally fine if it was Rita. Yeah, and plus, Rita hanging out with Brainiac? That would have been cool. The stuff with, the other stuff, how they, I'm getting tongue-tied here. So Brainiac, with Zed, because Zed actually ends up, after being captured by Brainiac, he ends up in, a bottle city, and he's like, oh shit, that's a giant monster, I'll make myself big. He makes himself big, and he grows, and it's human size. I thought that was funny. And that's when he gets to talking with Brainiac, and he's like, hey, I know a world you can go to and take. So they escape into the Power Rangers universe, while the Rangers and the Justice League are pretty much left behind, which I found kind of weird also, that, you know, the Rangers can just summon their Zords out of nowhere. Like, they can just summon them from another universe. Like, wait, so can you go back? Because they were kind of sketchy on that. Like, they could bring the Zords into the DC universe, but they couldn't go back themselves? What's a problem here? I mean, they could, for some reason, they couldn't bring the Dragon Zord, but like, they could bring the other Zords here into this universe. I wasn't, like, clear on that. I guess, like, the writer just wanted, I'll just have the Megazords here. I'll just have, like, everyone wants to see the Megazords with the Justice League. That'd be cool. And it is kind of cool to see, don't get me wrong, this is a really cool comic of finally having the Power Rangers with the Justice League. But there is, like, another thing, and this is DC-wise, is that Cyborg looks very different from what he does in the Rebirth comics. He just looks a lot like, I guess this was the artist rendition of it. Plus, you also have John Stewart as one of the main members of the League, even though in both New 52 and Rebirth, he's kind of like, I believe, a reserve member. He is still part of the Justice League, if I remember right. But, yeah, he's not he's not as a major member. He's off with Guy and Kyle, in the Green Lantern Corps comics. So, yeah, it kind of, like, I understand that, yeah, it was a more popular character, but, like, and you do see Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz in here, but, yeah, like, that's not like, John shouldn't be on the, in fact, he should be, like, out in deep space, like, if it was Hal Jordan, fine, but don't get me wrong, it is cool to see John in here. I just kind of was like, now wait a minute, hold up, he's not on Earth that much, why did he suddenly bounce, alright, whatever. I don't know, that was just my thing. Also, how they get back to the Power Rangers universe is also kind of like, really? That's what we're doing? Because the whole big plan, get this, is that they take the Hedron Collider, the thing that makes a universe, and want to make it into a gateway, knowing full well it could blow up and make a black hole. And I was like, was the cosmic treadmill not an option? Was a mother box too much? What the hell? Like, seriously, out of all the options you could have taken, you could have gone to Dr. Fate, you could have used the cosmic treadmill, you could have used a mother box, like, the Hedron Collider. That's what we're doing. Okay. Yeah. And there is some cool moments in here, like Wonder Woman talking to the people of the world leaders of the Power Rangers universe, and they're like, well, shit, what do we do? And Wonder Woman comes in and is like, you fight back. And I was like, that's a really cool moment, because you never really, like, I know they've been touching on this in the Boom Studios comics for Power Rangers, but in the show, it was never like, well, what does the rest of the world think of, these giant monsters coming down? And I'm glad in Boom Studios, the Boom comics for Power Rangers, they've been really touching on the world subject of, hey, our world is only protected by 5 to 6 people, and there's a whole army of Nope out there. What do we do? So I thought that was a nice little nod to that. In term, what else was there? Also, we do get the whole I don't know you, you don't know me kind of fight, but it is kind of like thrown aside for a bit, for a little bit. But I think it was kind of like we all kind of expecting it. I didn't get my Batman versus Green Ranger fight. I got a little of it, but he was fighting all the Rangers. I wish, I was just kind of hoping to see Tommy and Batman fight. That was just kind of like a thing, like a one-on-one fight between the two. Oh well. There is some other interesting moments, like Alpha 5. Alpha makes himself big with one of Zed's bombs, growth bombs. And I was like, really? We're doing that? Like, I'd have preferred to see, like, maybe Batman or what was I going to say? Superman or one of the DC characters growing big instead of Alpha, of all people. There was also some interesting moments with Brainiac, because he takes over Cyborg, he takes over the Zords, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And the other thing is, I'm not aware if Brainiac had ever done that before in any continuity with where he takes over Cyborg. So I was like, yeah, why hasn't he done this before? Like, maybe he has, but I don't know. Like, I think this is the first time they've really touched on Brainiac taking control of Cyborg. So I thought that was really neat. And what else was I going to say? There's also, a moment where Jason, Kimberly, and I think Trini, I think it's Trini, where they take just items from the Justice League. Like, Kimberly uses Oliver's bow and arrow, and I was like, we had to do this? Okay. Just saying. Like, why do they even have that on the Javelin, also? Why do they even have, like, the Red Hood's, Jason Todd's helmet on there? Like, I know they probably, like, confiscated stuff, but shouldn't that be in a vault? Why did Batman have that all just casually on the jet? I'm just saying. I mean, was it cool to see Kimberly use, Oliver's bow and arrow, and even the boxing glove arrow that she used to knock Zed out with? It was cool, yeah, but I was like, why is this all just here conveniently? Like, just all of it. Anyway, what else was I going to say? Monster fights are pretty cool. The artwork is beautiful. It is very nice, but it does, like, I can see why this nearly got delayed indefinitely. But I'm glad it wasn't, but it is very clear that, I think it was, like, the art gets a little too flashy, and I think some of the facial features get a little muddied at points, but I guess that was probably of a rush job. But it's still a very beautiful-looking comic, nonetheless. But I was just like, I can, maybe we should, think this out before, getting an interior artist who's very particular to detail, before, going into this. I don't know. All in all, it's a pretty serviceable crossover. It's not. I mean, it is a little more Power Rangers than Justice League at the start, but I think towards the second issue, it really balances itself out because it is very. The main focus is Zack. The main focus of this story is Zack in this comic. And that's really cool. They could have easily just done Tommy or Jason as the main focus for the Rangers, but nope, it's Zack. And I like the little storyline he has of, trying to wrestle with the fact that he caused all of this. So I like that. I like when the other Rangers outside of Tommy and Jason get the spotlight. So I was really cool with that. Also, I'm pretty sure we're building up to a sequel. I am pretty sure we are building up to a sequel with this comic because at the end of it, where the Justice League, returns to the DC universe, you have Alpha at the end of it going, I am Brainiac. So I was like, oh, we might be getting a sequel out of this. That might be cool. Because and I wouldn't put it past them to do that because there have been tons of sequels lately with DC doing crossover sequels. We had that with Green Lantern and Star Trek. We've had that with Batman and Ninja Turtles. We're getting a sequel to that, and we also have the sequel to Batman: The Shadow. So I have no doubt in my mind that we could get a sequel to Justice League Power Rangers, which would be really awesome. Maybe we could have, I don't know, the Machine Empire as the main villains. Just had it set in Zeo, maybe? Or maybe have Rita as the main villain and have her teaming up with, I don't know, Darkseid, or maybe, let's see, who would be a good one for Felix Faust? Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of possibilities here. So you guys tell me in the comments, what did you guys think of the Justice League Power Rangers crossover? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Comment below, let me know. And once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.